Hello, folks. It's Jim Voss back again for just my opinion. I promised you that I would get back to you on this us producing 20% of the narcotics that we need to get us through the day, and China and India producing the other 80%. Well, I found out some things in my research that are quite upsetting. And it seems that we need to name this podcast "We're Screwing Ourselves." There's no bad guy to point a finger to. No Chinaman, no Indian, no nothing that we can say that's the person who's putting the screws to us. We can't even point to our own presidential administration to say they're doing it, but they're not helping. Don't get me wrong, but I'm going to tell you what I found out. We're going to make it quick. I apologize for the lighting not being good in the studio tonight and for it being thrown together, and for me, of course, to wear such fine after 6 evening wear to do one. But I wanted to get it done because I promised you I would. First of all, I'm trying a new way of setting up my notes. So I've got them on stickies all over the place. So if my eyes divert and go somewhere else, hey, just forgive me. We're not professional here. The only thing that you should expect me to deliver to you is the truth. Sometimes it won't be real pretty with the way I get it there, but it still gets there. I hope you appreciate that. We discussed in the third podcast why we cannot produce our own drugs here in the United States. We also concluded from the second podcast that the finished product, pharmaceuticals, are made mainly in the United States. However, 80% of those ingredients, those fillers that go into that capsule, are made in mainland China. We tend to go to India for our pharmaceutical drugs that fall under the generic, as you always ask for when you go, and they tell you that that tube of cream is $85, and you say, well, is there a generic for it? China's Hubei, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, Hubei province is the epicenter of the global coronavirus outbreak. It's also the home for 12 manufacturing factories that supply the U.S. with everything from painkillers to antibiotics. And beyond Hubei, 80% of the pharmaceutical ingredients, like I said, are sourced out to China and to India. Our ability to make, you got to understand, making is only half of the problem. Our distribution, as we call it in the military, our logistics sucks. We could manufacture it, but getting it to where it's going to go, we do not have the dedication of different corporations, much like China. If China wants to make the super aspirin, and they do, then they take the state-run railroads and the state-run transport people, and that's how they get it to market. Here, we have to go through union negotiations and all these kinds of hazardous placards and all this other crap in order to get our product to market. So, yes, the answer is we could produce our own, but we'd be so far behind just trying to get it to the market until I wonder if it would be profitable at all. That's the first reason. The very first reason is, and this is one that's scary when you think about it, if I produce something in China and it's sent to the United States and it's outsourced, in other words, I'm going to sell it to you and you're going to import it, you can tax it. But the drugs that are on the inside of those containers do not have to meet, listen up, do not have to meet American standards. They only have to meet Chinese standards because that's where they were produced, in China. So think about it. And this has happened before. You'll find it in research if you're willing to take the time to do it. They have sent us below standard, below par narcotics before. Inferior products that were contaminated. We found that out with dog food. And many other different things that are just subpar, below standard for their narcotics. But once again, That's the number one reason that they don't have to meet the strict standards of the FDA here. The second one, of course, is cost. Let's take, for example, that I am a person working in a Chinese factory. My average salary will be $80 per week. In other words, $2 per hour. I do not expect any benefits. I do not expect to move up in the world and promotions. I do not expect pay raises. That's an entry level and a sustainable position of $2 per hour. You don't have to pay me any retirement. We don't have to worry about taxes. So, not bad, huh? Okay, let's move to the United States. Base salary for someone working in a high-risk business in a technological position would have to be paid between $25 and $40 per hour. Now, if you are looking at attaching onto that union wages, benefits, promotions, increases in salary, vacations, the benefits themselves, retirement, and God knows what else you want to tack on, it is costing you around $105 to $110 per hour to have an American work in a spot in a nice, cool, air-conditioned office, as opposed to the Chinese guy who's working in a sweatshop producing the same narcotics at $2 per hour. Second reason, cost. Cost is where we screw ourselves. The third one is the great President Trump, and I think he was great, had already established an $800 million pot of money. And in his second month in office, he came up with a plan to where we would start making and distributing those narcotics here in the United States. $800 million, that's not a bad start. However, he didn't get reelected. So when it took 4 years for that to kick into effect, the first narcotics came out in 2021 that were produced off of the Trump money and the Trump legislation. So it was a success. And of course, it came from President Trump. Therefore, the Biden administration is going to let it run out of money, and they're not going to refund it. Not because it didn't work, simply because it came from Donald Trump. Now, I'm going to take a short break and move my notes, and then we will be right back. So hold on. Well, this may just work out, so I may do it this way. We'll do it in segments. Let's call this segment 2. As I said earlier, we're screwing ourselves. Not just this administration. Now, I told you I wasn't going to talk about Democrats only, although I don't like Democrats. Never have, and I know I never will. But different administrations are willing to allow all of this billion-dollar business to be kept overseas. The only thing that senators and congressmen care about is how it is good for them. It cannot be good for their district. Now listen up. Their district is hurting. All districts are hurting. Grandma is dying of pain, and we can't get her out of it because we can't afford to either pay the rent or buy the narcotics. Children can die of cancer and die screaming in pain. Once again, as long as that hospital gets that $10,000 a day to keep that child alive, they could care less whether or not we have produced it here or it was produced in China. Doesn't make any difference. We have a regulatory body that's supposed to keep an eye on the transactions and how they are implemented and what's transported in and what's farmed out and what's an import and what's an export of narcotics, and that's the FDA. Well, the FDA was called to task here just not too long ago, and they said, explain to us why 80% of our narcotics are manufactured in China and in India. And the FDA did a duh. We didn't really know. We didn't really know that this was happening. News flash. That's your damn job. You're supposed to have your finger on the pulse of where all the narcotics in the United States are, what's been approved, what's been disapproved, what's been tabled and put back into the laboratory to be refurbished or redone or boosted or taken away from or whatever. That's your job. There's no such thing when you meet a cabinet level position to say, I don't know. I have no idea. The FDA has failed miserably in doing its job. And I'll tell you why. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the demon within the United States that has embedded itself into our lives, the lives of our government, the lives of society is Big Pharma. Big Pharma, if you're talking about us screwing ourselves, Big Pharma's pushing the other end of the D thing, you know. They're the ones that are the power behind the penis. They're the ones that are helping to mastermind this type of screwing. But I'm telling you, this is done by everyone. This is done by Walmart. This is done by Kmart. This is done by Lowe's. This is done by Home Depot. It doesn't make any difference who it is. This is the rule in business. He who controls all of the goods sets the price. Now, CVS and those people and these organizations, they buy, let me back up a minute. These ingredients, whether they're going into hydrocodone, oxycodone, morphine, it doesn't make a difference, whatever they're going into, they are on the open market for sale. Now, oh, hold on, wait, I don't feel good. Whew, that didn't feel good. When you get old, nothing feels good. These mega corporations that have billions at their disposal, I mean, they can get anything they want. They buy these giant blocks of the nutrients, the narcotics, the minerals, the ores that go into our capsule. They tweak those out at 80%. They put them in China. China brings them into the United States. China doesn't have to pay anything as far as a penalty for not meeting standards. They put it into the capsule. We put our 20% of the capsule. The capsule goes together. They take $1 of narcotics and make $1,000 off of it. To think that the Egyptians grinding out an aspirin, that aspirin could only be given to the big dogs, the royalty, whatever you wanted to call them back then, to the king and to the queen, an aspirin. And that's about the way it is today. If you don't have an insurance company that is funding your the purchase of your narcotics to stay alive, to stay out of pain, to stop that headache, to stop the foot ache, to stop whatever kind of ache, to help you after the operation, during the operation, before the operation, doesn't make any difference. Pharma's going to get theirs. They don't care if you die before they repo your house because you can't make a mortgage payment. They don't care if grandma dies in pain. They don't care if your child dies. Doesn't make any difference to them. All they are concerned about is how they take these giant blocks of narcotics, mix them with what we produce, and they're making money. They're not making millions or billions. They're in probably the close to the $1 trillion mark. That's just us screwing us. You understand? There's no devious czar or despot or dictator. There's no Chinese guy, Xi, or they're not behind this. It's us. It's us screwing our fellow man. Yeah, granted, China's making gazillions of dollars off of it. They don't have to pump oil. They got narcotics. Russia's not that smart. But that's another podcast. And I can't explain to you the depression that I feel right now. I wanted to be able to blame the Chinese. I wanted to be able to blame someone else. I wanted to be able to blame the bad guys or a rogue nation or a generation of unscrupulous people. The entity that I must blame are the money-hungry people that are embedded within the business. I'll get it right. I got to buy teeth from the good store, not mail order. From the business industry who rape the market of these needed ingredients, jack up the price, hold the elderly and those in pain in hostage situations where, like I said, grandma's got to decide whether she can to buy the groceries or to buy her drugs. Big Pharma's the devil. And these who buy up everything are the imps from hell. Big Pharma commits millions of dollars every election cycle to those people that will vote continually towards their lifestyle and their agenda. You find that irritating. They want to talk about campaign reform, and they expect a person to be perfect in every mean and manner, except that we elect them and we put them in office, and then we allow the lobbyists to tempt them with millions of dollars of contributions, payoffs, scam, money under the table to vote for Big Pharma. I don't understand it. It's like you take the underdog team and you bribe the ump and the scorekeeper and you give them a 5-point advantage before they ever go to bat. You know, but we're doing it. And the powers that be are killing us. They're allowing us to die in pain, expecting us to work every day in pain, expecting us to understand why a loved one died without health care, expecting us to understand why a child with cancer must suffer the hellacious torture of a killer disease. And I gotta ask you the same question. How did we get here? You and I did not go to the House of Representatives. You and I did not go to the Senate. You and I stayed home. I don't know about you, but I worked my ass off, made mortgage payments, probably worked a part-time job. I did, 2 of them, and sacrificed so that our children could have better than we did. And the problem with this story is that we're forced to put our hopes and dreams into a human being that we elect and send to the State House or to D.C. We hope they'll think about us, when they vote on a bill, create a bill, make a final decision, or even confer with a colleague, whichever side of the aisle he's on. I passionately believe that we should return to the time of George Washington. I'll never forget, I didn't know this, but when George Washington was made the President of the United States, he said, "I don't want to be the President of the United States. I'm war weary. I want to go home to my farm, raise my crops, smoke my pipe, and relax." Can you imagine if we should change the laws around like it used to be? Yes, you can get elected governor, but there's no salary. See, the first representatives did not receive any money, no compensation. I'm sorry, you did it because you loved the United States and you were dedicated to see it moving forward. What happened to that plan, guys? The plan's still there. The problem is, explain to me, those of you who are almost sane, who are not liberals, who are not drinking the Kool-Aid, explain this to me. I'll spend $20 million to get a position within politics that pays me $200,000. And $20 million is conservative. Do you realize that during the excuse me, I got to get my tongue right and my teeth straight. During the run with Trump and Madam Lardass, they were expected to spend $1 billion, a billion with a B dollars, just to get the Oval Office. They'd almost kill to get there. It's amazing the amount of money that's spent. And we're supposed to be constantly going through campaign reform. That's bullshit. You know it and I know it. Okay, let's do it this way. You can't give more than $1,000, period. I don't give a damn who you are. You know, $1,000, that's it. And that's $1,000 per corporation, not $1,000 per person in the corporation, but $1,000 per person, period. That's it. No more PACs. I'm sorry. No more PACs with millions and millions of dollars in the coffers. No, 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 no. Have a bake sale if you want to. I don't care. But the max is $1,000 from an entity, whether it be a human being or whether it be a corporation or whether it be a Girl Scout collection or a bake sale. I don't give a damn. $1,000. That's all you can give. We're going to move on to segment 2. I got to move my notes all around. Hang on. Stay where you at. Have a drink.